There's an old house on the edge of a small town, the kind of place that looks tired even in daylight. Faded paint, bent porch rails, windows that always seem to be watching. It was there that a woman and her young daughter moved in to take care of the child's aging grandmother. The grandmother had always been a quiet woman, but at night, she told stories. Not the comforting kind, no fairy tales or heroes, just one story, always the same, about something she called Mr. Long Fingers. She'd tell her granddaughter never to let her hands hang over the edge of the bed, because that's where he waited, in the dark, under the floorboards, listening for warmth. For years, the story was nothing more than a family ghost tale, until they moved back into that house. The girl was about 12 when it began again. Late one night, she heard a sound behind her bed, faint at first, like water dripping in the pipes. But it wasn't random. It was a rhythm. She tried to tell herself it was just the old house settling. But every time she held her breath, the tapping stopped. When she exhaled, it started again. Over the next week, it moved from the wall outside to the ceiling, to the floorboards beneath her bed, and each night it crept closer. The grandmother noticed. She grew restless, spent more and more time in the bathtub, the one place she said she felt safe. She told her daughter that he didn't like the heat, that he stayed away from running water. But then came the night she locked herself inside. The sound of the bath running echoed through the house for hours. Steam curled from under the door. And then, silence. When the family finally broke down the door, the tub was full, but the water wasn't clear. It was dark, thick, almost black. The mirror above the sink was fogged from the inside, and down its surface ran 5 long streaks, like claw marks drawn in condensation. The grandmother was gone, vanished. No body, no footprints leaving the room. Just the smell, metallic, like blood. When police searched the house, they found something strange. A loose wooden board beneath the bathtub, in. On the underside, carved in trembling letters, were 3 words. He's still hungry. The girl and her mother moved out a week later. The house was sold, boarded up, and left to rot. But local kids say that if you walk by it at night, you can still hear it. There's something quietly terrifying about living alone for the first time. The sound of your own footsteps feels louder. Shadows seem to move when you're not looking. And when night falls, even the smallest creak can feel like a warning. Evan knew that feeling better than most. He had just moved into a small apartment on the east side of the city, one of those old buildings with paper-thin walls and floors that groaned under every step. The rent was low, the neighborhood quiet, and after a messy breakup, quiet was all he wanted. The only downside was the roommate, a man named Chris. Polite enough, maybe too polite. The kind of person who smiled with their mouth but never with their eyes. Evan didn't think much of it. He just wanted to be left alone. For the first week, everything was fine. Work, sleep, repeat. But by the second week, the nights started to feel wrong. It began with small sounds, a faint rustle beneath the bed like fabric brushing against wood, then the tapping, soft at first, then sharper, closer. He told himself it was mice. The building was old. Every tenant complained about pests, but the sound was too deliberate, too slow. Sometimes it came right after he turned off the light. Sometimes it started before. Evan started keeping the lamp on. The warm light helped until it didn't. Because one night, just past 3 a.m, he woke to the sound of breathing. Quiet, shallow, and close. He held perfectly still. The breathing wasn't his own. The air felt heavier, and as he stared into the darkness, something moved beneath him. The mattress dipped, only slightly, as if someone had shifted their weight under the frame. He leaned over, heart pounding, trying to convince himself it was just his imagination. That's when he saw it. Not a shape, not even a shadow. Just 2 eyes, wide, unblinking, reflecting the glow from his alarm clock. staring up from the darkness beneath his bed. Evan scrambled back, kicking at the frame, slamming his shoulder into the wall as the thing beneath him retreated with a scraping sound. He reached for the lamp, but the bulb flickered and went out, leaving the room in a suffocating black silence. He ran into the hallway, flicking on every light in the apartment. His roommate's door was closed, locked. When morning came, Chris was in the kitchen making coffee like nothing had happened. Evan asked if he'd been in his room that night. Chris just stared, then smiled that same half smile. "You must have been dreaming," he said. "You've been under a lot of stress." Evan tried to believe him. But the next night it happened again. The rustling, the whisper of breathing, the slow creak of the bed frame moving beneath him. He slept on the couch for 3 nights. But even there he could hear it. Faint scratching from the floorboards below, lights tracing slow circles like something crawling just out of sight. On the 4th night, he decided to look. He grabbed his phone, opened the flashlight, and crouched beside the bed. His pulse thundered. His hand trembled as he lifted the sheet and aimed the light. Nothing, just dust and floorboards. He let out a shaky laugh. Then his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It read, "Stop shining the light." The phone slipped from his fingers, the beam tumbling across the floor until it caught something. A pale arm stretching from the shadows, reaching for the phone. Evan screamed and stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. The arm slid back under the bed, vanishing. When Chris came running, Evan was shaking, clutching the phone. But the message was gone. That morning, Chris told him to calm down. And maybe he was overtired, maybe he should see someone. He offered to handle things for a few days, and said he'd take care of the apartment. Evan left that afternoon and checked into a motel. But the next day, he couldn't stop thinking about what he'd seen. He had to go back. They had to prove it wasn't real. When he unlocked the door, the apartment was silent. Chris's door was open for the first time. Inside was a small mattress pushed into the corner. Filthy sheets, a single pillow, and dozens of photos pinned to the wall. Photos of Evan, sleeping, working, eating breakfast, all taken from inside the apartment. And under the bed, a small indentation in the dust, just big enough for a person to lie flat. Police later found no trace of Chris. He'd vanished completely, leaving behind only the photographs and a small pile of food wrappers under Evan's bed. The landlord said he'd never rented to anyone named Chris. The lease had only one name, Evans. Some say the man under that bed wasn't a roommate at all. Others say it was something older, something that only looks human, drawn to people who sleep alone. The apartment's been rented 4 times since then. Each tenant lasted less than a month. Would you stay at the apartment